Welcome to episode number 1 of the Agent Stories podcast. My name is Stefan van der Flaziger, and I'm joined here today with one of my good friends, Omar Megally. Not only is he an amazing real estate agent down from the Los Angeles area, he is also a multiple time sub 4-hour marathon runner. So there's a lot of cool things that he's got to share today. I'm super excited to chat with you, Omar. So Omar, I feel like I didn't do you justice. Why don't you introduce yourself and share a bit about who you are?
Absolutely. No, that was amazing. Yeah, we are great friends. I'm excited to be on this podcast, episode number 1, which is
Yep.
which is absolutely phenomenal. And that is true. I am a realtor and I run marathons in my spare time, as you can see by the medals. Um, but I'm big, into business. I love business development, sales, and just growing as a person, right? Especially the past few years, it's been phenomenal growth,
Mhm.
and really going up from here.
Okay. And given that this is the Agent Stories podcast, I must ask the typical question: what got you into real estate? What inspired you to become an agent in the first place?
Dude, that's a great question. So I graduated college. I went to Long Beach State here,
Okay.
and I majored in finance. So I've always loved business. And I got out of school and I got like a job as a financial analyst at this
Mhm.
like tax firm. And I
Yeah.
did it for like 6, 7 months. And was absolutely miserable. I did not like it. I don't know if it was my company or my coworkers. But maybe just my like that position wasn't optimal for me, but I just didn't like the whole 9 to 5 you know that wave, right?
Yeah.
I like to be out and about doing things on my own time in a way, right? So I
Mhm.
was like, dang, what kind of industry can I get in?
Mhm.
And I started trading stocks maybe like a year and a half, like in 2020, and I graduated end of 2021. So I've been trading for like 2 years. And my mentor, he's always preaching about real estate.
Mhm.
He's always saying, if you're not in real estate now, or you already are in real estate, so you might as well go all in, right? Because everybody's either
Mhm.
renting, they're living somewhere. You're always going to need a realtor at the end of the
That's
day.
fair.
you know and he was a realtor. He became like a realtor at like 18, and now he's doing more like investment stuff, but he's always preaching about getting into real estate, like understanding it at the end of the
Mhm.
day. So I was like, okay, let me follow what he has to say. So I learned more about it, and I
Yeah.
was like, dang, this sounds really intriguing. I had a few friends that were realtors. They seem to live pretty cool lives. So I was like, shoot, let me try it out.
Yeah.
um so fast forward, like I get my license and I quit my job. I'm like, okay, I'm going all in. I'm an
Damn.
all or nothing type of guy.
Yeah. Yeah.
Probably wasn't the best decision, but it's like you light a fire under your ass.
Yeah. Burn your boats.
Exactly. And that's what I did, right?
Sweet.
And I tried like everything. I did the wholesaling. I tried flipping those. Didn't really
Yeah.
have much
Yeah.
success there. And then I focused primarily on the residential route, which I definitely had some pretty good success. I actually just finished basically my first full year, because I became an agent in what is that, October of
Mhm.
2022.
Okay.
um and now it's basically November of 2023. So basically first completed my
Sweet.
first year. I've done 4 transactions. And the volume, I don't know the volume off the top of my head, but it's like around 1.5, maybe 1.7, something around there, right?
Yeah. Sweet.
Nothing too crazy, but nothing to brag home about
Yeah.
either.
Oh, that's
uh,
sweet. That's sweet.
Yeah, but like I'll be honest, dude, the first like probably like it took me 7 months or 6 months to get my first deal, and it's like, dude, I was doing everything under the sun, whether that's DoorDash, doing gigs, like all this stuff to still make it by. But
Yeah.
like first check hits, you're like, holy shit, this is what real estate's about.
Yeah. Okay. Oh, that's sweet. And circling back, you mentioned, you saw your friends doing real estate and they were living these luxurious freedom type of lives. So I guess, was it what you expected it to be? Like when you got in, was it what you thought it was?
No, no, I did not. It's a lot of hard work, it's really it's all about relationships, right? Like nobody just meets you for the first time and is like, "Hey, I'm ready to buy a house," right? It doesn't work
If
like that.
only, if only it
Yeah,
was that easy.
right. And I knew these guys were in the business for a while, but I just like, okay, yeah, like you just get into it and start making deals. But no, there's a
Mhm.
lot of upfront work that has to be done. And everything you do in real estate, like you could be making the calls today, but you're not going to see fruits of that labor until 3, 6 months to a year from now.
Mhm.
Um, and it's definitely a psychological shift you have to have from that instant gratification of, getting paid every 2 weeks to not really knowing when your next paycheck's coming in.
Mhm.
So that's like a big adjustment as well.
Okay. And so what is the quote unquote reality of becoming a realtor? Like if you had to summarize, how they always used to make these starter packs, it was like, oh, high school teenage kid starter pack. If you had to make like a real estate starter pack for beginner real estate agents who just got into it, what would that kind of look like? Like what's the reality look like?
A starter pack. That's a great question. So number one, a car, because you're going to be driving a lot. You're going to
Yeah.
be shipping boxes. A phone, mandatory. You're
Mm,
on the phone fucking 24/7. A laptop or computer to manage like all of your CRM
yeah.
and your business cards. Because
Okay.
when either that, if it's digital or paper, you want to be giving those out as much as you can, and just leaving a good impression on people, right? Coming in at number 5 is a smile, because you
I
have
love
to be
that one. I
personable.
love that
Yeah,
one.
you have to be personable, and you actually have to be genuine and care about people because it's not just a transaction. It's like the biggest purchase of one's life, right? And
Mhm.
I call myself a life changer because quite literally change people's lives and their situations. So yeah.
Dude, that's sweet. I think that's one of the biggest things, like in business in general, is like, just, can you change people's lives? Can you leave a positive impact on people? I know myself, that's what, kind of keeps me moving from the day to day, is like, I just want to inspire other people to be the best version of them. And I guess relatively the same with you. I know you always preach on your Instagram. Obviously, I'm a big fan. I watch all your content. The motivational Mondays. There's a lot of good quotes, which actually leads me to want to ask, what is the favorite piece of content, or the favorite your favorite quote that you've ever heard?
Dang, that's a hard one. My favorite quote that I've ever heard.
Yeah.
Now I'm gonna feel like a dummy if I can't name it.
I put you on the spot.
Yeah, favorite quote I've ever heard. Um, Shoot, it's probably got to be from like Elon Musk. I had this actually as my wallpaper for a long time, and it said,
Okay.
"If you need encouragement, don't do it."
Damn, if you need encouragement, don't do it. Huh. Okay. From Elon Musk. I like that. If you need encouragement, don't do it. Huh. Elaborate on that a little bit. Like what does that mean to you? I mean, obviously everybody can sit here and go, that's a great quote, but like, to you, what does that mean?
Because it's like he's specifically talking about the hard things in life, right? Because a lot of people, they need that gym buddy to go with them, they need that run buddy to push them, oh,
Mhm.
my run buddy called out, or my gym buddy, I can't go to the gym. If they're not on this like super rah team, they can't get their work done,
Mhm.
because it's like, I mean, a lot of people are innately lazy, right? And so am I, but it's like you
Yeah.
still have to have that discipline, and that self-motivation rather than waiting for it to come from external sources. It's like you have to be that motivation. Um,
Okay.
so you can't wait for that encouragement from other people. If you need that, don't even do whatever you're about to. That's
Yeah. Okay. I like that. It feels like he's almost saying, or at least how I take it, is like, don't rely on other people to go out there and get what you want. Because if you have to rely on other things, and when that thing isn't present anymore, you can't get it.
exactly.
Okay. I like that. No, that's a good quote. And I know that, I put you on the spot, so it's difficult to come up with something. I know like thinking of something on the spot is like one of the hardest things to do, but I like that quote. That kind of it honestly it kind of fits well with what you said earlier. Is like you burned your boats. You went from working, probably a pretty solid job in the finance industry to burning all your boats and going all in on real estate, which, I'm assuming you probably did because you're like, I need to do this, not because everyone was cheering you on, saying, quit your job, do this, do that. You're like, man, I gotta do this for myself. Is that someone on the right kind of the lines?
Absolutely. Like every single probably I'd say 80% of people who I talk to like, dude, don't do that, bro. Like you got a good job. Stay in it for a while, get a few deals, all this stuff. And I was like, dude, fuck out of here, dude. I'm doing me, you
Yeah,
know?
no, fair enough.
Um, and they probably had some wisdom to it, right? Because at the end of the day, like I didn't really know what I was getting into, and I had this
Mhm.
almost a delusion. But to be an entrepreneur, you definitely still have to have that sense that it's all going to work out, right?
Yeah,
Because why even start if you think you're just going to fail?
yeah.
I mean, always hindsight 2020, but I mean, I wouldn't be where I am today if I didn't do that.
So I guess I'll ask the hopefully obvious question. Are you happy that you made the jump?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. Now, I mean, shit, now I have the most like professional connections I ever had. I'm in multiple industries, whether that's like the marketing side of it, I'm in real estate. We're working towards, actually home ownership because that's the true way of financial, freedom is to own it.
Yeah,
Um, and if I just stuck to the same route that everybody else does, that 9 to 5 grind, just like doing what everybody else does, I'll be a part of that, 99%. And I'm nowhere near the top 1%, but I'm on my way there
yeah.
because you got to do what the 99% won't do.
Exactly. And that's work. It's ironic because everyone's like, oh, we want to escape the 9 to 5. And then you realize instead of working 8 hours a day, you're now working 12, 14, 16 hours a day. It's like, I thought I was getting myself into freedom. And it's like, you're just working a lot harder to get there. But
Yeah,
I don't know about you. I myself am like a lover for the journey, lover for the process. And so each and every moment is very valued and held near and dear to my heart because I think the journey is what makes getting to the top so special. Because if you were just innately born there, like you were just born on top of the mountain, the view wouldn't be as good as if you had to climb all the way up. And so I think, the process is what makes the view so worth it.
absolutely. Absolutely. And yeah, it's no fun saying, yeah, that's why people who win the lottery just go broke, because they don't have to
Yeah.
work for that. But
Yeah.
that satisfaction that you get from grinding every single day and seeing those fruits of those labors, that's the satisfying part.
Yeah, no, 100%. And I want to backtrack a little bit because I know we just get, so caught up in these little mini conversations to when to when we're talking about, burning your boats and kind of having this discipline. How how do you relate? Because obviously, you're a big runner. How important do you think health and exercise and these sort of disciplined activities is for being an entrepreneur, for doing your own thing, for kind of, getting your way to the top?
I think it's actually the most important thing in one's life.
Yeah.
Funny enough, like the very first month I became a realtor, I did my first round of 75 hard. If
We
people,
wow,
yeah, if people in the
that's
audience don't
big.
Yeah, if people don't know what 75 Hard is, I'd highly recommend looking it up, right? It's built by Andy Frisella. You basically have to do like 2 workouts a day, clean diet, no alcohol, no like anything harmful for your body. And really focus on your discipline, right?
Yeah.
Because it's not easy. I mean, yeah, sure, maybe let's say 50% of the days you're happy go lucky, you have enough time in the day to get it done. But the
Mhm.
other 50%, you're tired, you're busy with work, you're getting that workout in at 12 p.m. at midnight when you could just be sleeping or taking a break. And it really built that discipline of like making those phone calls, going out to door knock, just sticking to the routine and the discipline that you set yourself to
Yeah.
rather than pushing it away like, oh, this is a tomorrow problem. And I think that doing that at the very start, it almost like gave me a kickstart in the year to come. Even though maybe I didn't see the actual, income come from it initially,
Yeah.
but I think because doing that later down the line, and still like, even though I haven't like made a bunch of, money or anything like that, I've still made more money than I have, in any other year over the past year.
Yeah.
um and that's because of sticking to that discipline, sticking to that, the self motivation, rather than, like, it really just builds that internal discipline. I can't really describe it that well, articulate, like, but I think that was the one big domino that fell, that like almost cascaded all the other effects, the butterfly effect in a way.
Yeah, no, I couldn't agree more. Like when you put yourself up to difficult activities on a day-to-day basis, then like the the other activities just become easier in a sense, because it's like that's just what you're almost predisposed to do at that point. You're like, man, I already ran 10 kilometers this morning. It's like, what else is like, nothing's gonna stop me today. It's like I already hit my lift. I already did my whole deep work seconds. Like it's like nothing is gonna stop you at that point, because like you've just built. I think David Goggins talks about this, how like, you got to build your mental toughness. It's like it's the same as like a muscle, right? It's like you got to build it up. It's not like you just flick a switch and you become disciplined. It's something you build up over time by just doing the things that you don't want to do time and time and time and time and time again. And he says it like, even now, even like David Goggins is looked at as like the most mentally strong person out there. And even he's like, man, I don't like this stuff. I don't like to do it, but it's a matter of doing it. And that's the difference between, like, I think most people is like, everybody doesn't like it, but what separates the people who win from lose is, the people that win just take action and do it regardless of how they feel.
Exactly. Like there's no, fun way of becoming successful. Like it's hard work, it's time in that dungeon, that place of darkness.
Yeah.
And then, it's like that bamboo we were talking about earlier. It takes 5 years
Yeah.
underground in darkness, never sees the light. And then fast forward 5 whole years of growth, of really implementing, doing those hard things, and then it grows to over 50 feet, in 5 weeks, something like
Yeah.
that.
90 feet in 5 weeks. It's ridiculous. Like all by all metrics, that plant, that bamboo tree hasn't seen any success in 5 years, and all of a sudden it's an overnight success. But little did people see, because you couldn't see because it was underground, that it spent 5 years growing its roots into the ground, building the fundamentals to allow it to build up like that. And I think it's one of the coolest examples that I could ever think of to explain what you just said.
Absolutely. No, exactly.
Well, this our time is nearing an end, and I promised you that I would keep this short, and so I have to ask two last things before we end this off. And it's geared back towards real estate yet again. So the two questions that I have to end this off is, number one, in the last year of doing real estate, what is the biggest lesson you've learned, or what is the biggest impact that real estate has had on you that you'd like to share with anybody else?
Biggest impact that real estate has had on me. That's a good question. The first thing that always comes to my mind is money is in the follow-up, right? In
Okay.
any business you're in, but I learned this in real estate, is money is in the follow-up, because a lot of time people aren't ready to move forward right now. And you do have to continuously check in, and be I mean, it's not like an evil intention, but almost like be a friend, right? Be genuinely interested. And that relationship will flourish if you're consistently checking in and doing those drop offs.
Mhm.
That I think that's the first thing that comes to my mind.
It's almost like planting a seed. It's like almost like a farmer. Like a farmer doesn't directly see, the fruits of his labor. Perfect analogy, like you mentioned earlier. Right away, the first day he plants that seed, but over time he waters and waters and waters that seed, and there's still nothing to show for it. But he just keeps watering the seed because he knows that one day that fruit will grow to be a beautiful whatever, and then he gets this. I think it's the same concept, like, watering the seed, following up, texting, checking in. You're just giving, 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 giving. You're just trying to be there, help out. Eventually it'll come around and do you good.
Exactly.
Yeah, no, man, I love that. And then the last question that I have to ask, the typical question. If you were to restart your real estate career from zero, what would you do differently, or what advice would you give your younger self to ensure that, he sees success quicker?
That's a good question. I would say put in more reps. Uh, in the beginning, I'll be honest, I didn't put in as many reps as I should have, right? Like
Mhm.
I'd let's say knock 100 doors, but in reality I should have did that
Yeah.
double time. I only cold called for an hour or two. It needs to be like 4 hours, right? In the beginning, I took it more of kind of like this a fun thing, but it's an actual business
Hmm.
that I didn't like. It took actually like my first event to go to where I realized that. And then that's when like everything kind of shifted. But it's like the real estate game is a hard game, right? And it takes a lot of discipline, as we were talking about. It's ruthless, right? There's that competition, but
Yeah.
there's still a lot of opportunity. There's depending on where you are, like I'm in LA, there's like what 15, 20 million people who live here.
Oh,
Um,
that's wild.
it doesn't matter, how many agents there are. The opportunity is out there and it's yours for the taking, but you
Yeah.
have to be willing to put in the reps. I definitely focus a lot on building your brand as well, and never be a quote unquote secret agent. There's people who are like afraid of posting online and all these things, but and honestly I was in the beginning too, but like dude, nobody even cares. Like everybody has their own lives, everybody has their own things that they're worried about. They don't care about your Instagram post, right? But it keeps you top of mind.
Hmm.
And now whenever I go anywhere, like people are always like, dang, I love your motivational Mondays. Like, how's real estate going? All this stuff, because they always consistently see me. But
Yeah.
after they scroll, they don't think about you. So that's like something I'd say. Focus on YouTube. YouTube's a huge one. And focus on marketing, right? Because once you learn the ins and outs of marketing, that's because you have to market your houses, you have to market yourself as a real estate agent. You're always marketing yourself.
Hmm.
um so learn that early on. um I think that's about it. That just about does it.
That was a lot of wisdom and advice, especially for someone, that might be just looking to become a realtor, or who's just a realtor. That's a lot of stuff to take and to implement into their own life to hopefully become a little better. So Omar, I have to say thank you, especially, being the first one to come on this podcast. I appreciate you a ton. And I hope that everybody that got to watch this enjoyed this. I really enjoyed chatting with you, and even getting to learn a bit more about you, and what it is that kind of got you into real estate, and the kind of advice you'd give. So Omar, thank you for joining me here today. That's all I got.
It's fun. It was a pleasure. Thank you for having me.